All right, to our next story. You know, every day one tends to see political parties and their leaders as missing the essence of their beings. Politicians view politics in self-referential terms and see political parties as vehicles that convey them to predetermined destinations. There appears to be confusion in the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, as the National Working Committee, NWC, of the party insists that Sunday Ude Okoye is the National Secretary of the party, despite the Supreme Court judgment on Friday, which appears to have reinstated a factional leader, Samuel Anyanwu, as Secretary. Lord Acton, the English historian and politician, had warned that power corrupts, and the theorist had added the fear of losing power corrupts absolutely. BK.
Yes, normally when you set out to contest an elected position, they expect you to step down.
Yeah.
So, our man, Anyanwu, wanted to be governor of Imo State. He didn't win. And he wanted to go back
to his position.
Of course, he faced resistance because they were like, no, having stepped aside, you cannot come back here. So they had this back and forth. It was taken to court. And of course, the appeal court decided that he was not the right person for that position. Yes. And then we thought that he would immediately obey the decision of the appeal court, but he went to
the
apex court. And now, what the court has said is that the apex court removed the jurisdiction of courts from interfering in matters like this. As far as the apex court was concerned, courts do not have jurisdiction on matters affecting political parties, especially on who occupies what position in a political party. So, but as is always the case in Nigeria, once the courts give a judgment, you then see different interpretations of the judgment. The contending parties will claim victory. They will claim that, oh, from what has happened, we won. And sometimes when I look at the judgment again, I will say, who are the lawyers?
Pronouncements are not ambiguous now.
No.
So where is the confusion?
Who are the lawyers who... some of those lawyers will be in open court because, you see, when judgment is given, in the open court, you can see the full dimension of the judgment.
Okay.
Because some of those things that the judges were saying.
There's a background, you know.
But when, yes, you know. But when the account of the judgment is written by newspapers, they are usually unable to accommodate all of those things that were said in court. The things said in court will enable you. For example, I knew from the word go that the Supreme Court validated the 27 lawmakers.
Okay.
But people were telling, no, the Supreme Court didn't talk about it. The Supreme Court, but people in open court knew. Some of the lawyers who are in open court knew that the Supreme Court had validated those guys. So I was just waiting. Maybe the CTC will come. When the CTC comes, let's hear what you are going to say next. Because we politicize everything. And we want to mislead people. We have lawyers now who have made a career out of coming to TV studios to lie to the Nigerian people, to give different interpretations to judgment.
Sorry, because somebody had said interpretations given to judgment is like a blind man who touches the tail of an elephant. That's the elephant to him. The other blind man touches the other side and so on.
And to what the tail, you know what the tail is. I can't touch the tail of the elephant now and tell myself that it looks like his neck. So it's absolutely ridiculous.
So the other one touches the body.
Cannot be like his genitalia, for example. So let's be clear on that one. People deliberately mislead.
Twist.
They twist. But like it happened in the case of the Supreme Court judgment on Rivers.
Yeah.
I think the CTC will show clearly, because the CTC is usually very voluminous.
And that's the certified true copy.
Yes, it's usually voluminous. So the CTC will tell us exactly what has happened. But now the NWC say, oh, since the Supreme Court said, courts have no jurisdiction on matters affecting political parties, appointment or election of their officials, then that means that they have won. Because the NWC are taking the decision that Anyanwu should no longer be secretary. So in their own understanding, since they took that decision, that means the decision that they took, the Supreme Court has validated it, since it said, look, it should not be a matter for courts to decide that the parties have the right to put whoever they want in those party elective positions. So this is it. But you and I know that since that judgment came, some have interpreted it to mean that the Supreme Court said, oh, Anyanwu, stay in your position. But the NWC say no. It means that we won. And what do you mean by you won? It means that Okoye is the person who is the new National Secretary.
To me, I believe that when you look at interpretation of what the Supreme Court said, as a president, Rotimi Amechi became governor because the Supreme Court said it is the party that people are voting for, that the candidate is just a representative of the party. So that is what the Supreme Court has said again. Supreme Court is saying that they should not have gone to the High Court and to the Appeal Court in the first place because they don't have jurisdiction. That it is when it comes to...
And in law, jurisdiction is key.
It's key.
It's everything.
Yes, that what the Supreme Court is saying that when it comes to the internal workings of political parties, it is the organs of the parties that has the final say.
That's it.
So if that is the judgment of the Supreme Court, the National Working Committee that said Okoye is the secretary, they are in order, because what it means is that the organs of the party that is recognized, they will come up and say, this is the person that we have put there. This is our secretary. And it is by the Anyanwu just wasting his time. Because the Supreme Court says it is the organs of the party that can determine who the officials of the party.
That's it.
So in this case, they will decide that this is our chairman, this is our secretary, this is our publicity secretary. And the Supreme Court have given credence to that. So as far as I'm concerned, those telling Anyanwu that he has the right to stay there, I don't agree, because what Anyanwu is saying is that he used to be the secretary. But after that, after being the secretary and going to contest, the organs of the party have now taken a decision removing him. And what the Supreme Court is saying that that decision is binding. That's the law.
Does it not strike you that when people talk about internal party democracy, internal democracy amongst political parties, what do political parties say?
That is why it is very important. Most, in fairness, a lot of these political parties do not have this internal democracy. Some people sit down and try to force some people on the party. But that is another matter. In this case, the Supreme Court has confirmed again, after the case of Amechi, that when it comes to elective positions within political parties, we don't need to come to court. It is the party themselves that will decide who will run their affairs. And the National Working Committee of the party, the only way Anyanwu can go back there is that Anyanwu can insist that maybe there should be an emergency meeting of the National Working Committee or the NEC meeting. And then let them now retrace.
Even with the wahala that is given them, if they do a NEC or a convention, which is the highest decision-making organ of the party, is not likely to be elected.
Yes, because things have changed. Now even Damagwe has moved to the other side. Because Anyanwu is in Wike's camp. But things that have been a major movement because Damagwe is no longer in that camp.
Yeah.
Why it was difficult prior was because both the chairman and the secretary were on the same page. But recently, the acting chairman, Damagwe, has moved camp.
So are we to say in this matter, the PDP is a long way from home?
No, not really. Yes, they have crisis. They have serious crisis. And one of their major problems is that they have two factions and one person who is very influential in the party, who is also a serving minister under another government, he still has considerable influence. Though gradually his influence is waning. Because for whatever reason, I don't know why, the chairman, the acting chairman is no longer on his side. So it's only Anyanwu that is with him now. And I don't see how Anyanwu can become.
It's not only Anyanwu.
No. What I'm saying is that
some of the governors are still with him.
Yes. Yeah. I'm talking about the chairman and the secretary.
The thing is the contest for 2027
that's what
has begun in the PDP a long time ago. Now, some people have made up their minds that no matter what Atiku does, they will make sure it doesn't get the ticket. Correct. And many of the governors are united on this because they also want to advance their political interest. So you will find people like Governor Makinde, people like the Bauchi governor.
Okay, yeah.
People like the Adama governor. They are working to ensure that at least one of them takes the ticket.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if a Makinde and the Bauchi governor decide to work together.
Yes.
Decide to work together. Because for some of them, Atiku, the party was not formed for Atiku alone. And he's been the standard bearer of the party in those presidential elections
for a while now.
Many times now.
Yeah.
There are others too who have age on their side who think that, well, for 2027, the people should stop thinking that, oh, this is just a Wike matter. No. A lot of them are actually thinking along the same line as Wike. Remember when they had that caucus meeting of the PDP? It was Governor Seyi Makinde that went to bring Wike into the meeting. So these people always find a way to come together. If the goal is to stop an Atiku from taking the ticket of the party, then it is not Wike alone that is determined to make sure that that happens. Because the rest of them, some of those governors who have ambition too, and they have resources. They have resources. They are in position to fund the party. Once you no longer have the capacity to fund the party, you lose
steam.
You lose your influence. Yeah. And other people who can fund. How did Wike become what he is today? How did he become what he is today? When others abandoned the party, he continued to fund the party. Yeah. As governor of Rivers, he continued to fund the party. So across the country, he has his own loyalists. He even sponsored the election of some of the people who today are in the Senate and House of Reps. I even know a governor. I know a governor that even partly sponsored this election.
Wow.
So those things give you, what do I call it? Give you gravitas as you move on. But all of this, every position is important in the PDP now. In the national school of the PDP, every position is important. People are looking at it and say, where does this person stand? This one. So at the end of the day, it's all about 2027. It's all about no doubt about it.
So to the everyday Nigerian on the street, if you are given a paper, can you tell me the national secretary of the PDP? The fellow no go know what to write. Even
me will not know to write because, like I said, Anyanwu is still insisting that is
the bona fide,
and the NEC is saying that where is it. So I think that the best way to do that is for them to have an emergency meeting
Yes.
emergency National Working Committee meeting, where they will say again who their secretary is. But what I'm saying is that if any of the organs of the party meet and say this is our secretary, I think based on the pronouncements of the Supreme Court, that is binding.
Otherwise, a pronouncement by the apex court is binding.
You cannot, if you don't like it, the only place you can appeal to is God.
The ambiguity is where I'm baffled about.
No, there's no ambiguity, because what they're saying is that the party will decide. The Supreme Court had just said, because Anyanwu lost at the appeal court.
Yeah.
But what the Supreme Court is saying that the appeal court should not have taken that case in the first place.
In the first place,
because there's no jurisdiction. That elective positions within political parties is an internal matter of those political parties. So it is political party that can determine who the secretary is. So the Supreme Court has just sent them back to the party. That's what I'm saying. That so it is now the party that will say this is who our candidate is, or this is who our secretary is. So if the party comes out and say this is the secretary, I think that's binding.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to our next story.